Hey guys, I'm about to teach you how to start designing your database with MySQL Workbench or MySQL Workbench, however you want to pronounce it. So just open it. If you need to know how to download it, check out my previous video in this series. Then under data modeling, you want to click Create New EER Model. You see, I already have one right here, but I'm going to start fresh so you guys know what's going on. So you click this, and this will come up. And right under here, you want to click Add Diagram. You want to double click this. This will open. Now when you create a table, up over here on the left, here's all the tools you have. And this one right here looks like a little box with a bunch of dots in it. This is a new table. You click this, and then you can select anywhere on your grid to start the table. And I know this doesn't look like much, but you can click it, and then right click, and click Edit Table. This will bring up the table properties. Now, table name, this is what you will name the table. So we're going to start with students. I'm just going to keep everything uncapitalized, just keep it the same. Alright, so here's our students table. And now the very first column that you should make is always an ID. So we have student ID. Now over here on the checkboxes, you see it says PK. That stands for primary key, and it automatically becomes checked because it's the first column you made. NN, that stands for not null. That's all you really need to know. And this is also an int, which stands for integer. Integer is just a whole number, and this is what keeps the ID, like, it's not a word, it's a number. But we don't really need to worry about any of this stuff right now, so we're just going to scoot all this over here. Okay, so you have the student ID. The next column we're going to make, and to select that, you just double click. We're going to make first name. Alright. Then also last name. See, this could be stored as just name if you wish, but I'm separating them because that's how I like it, and I think it's easier. Now, the data type, it's var, char, or however you want to pronounce it, which just means characters that vary, so. And if you don't have 45 letters in your name, then you can have less. Okay, now from here, you can see up here in our table, we have the tables, the columns that we made. I'm going to change one thing. Under Edit, I want you to click Preferences, and then go over to Model, Diagram. And then under Tables, where it says Show Column Types, uncheck that. Now what this does, it gets rid of all that extra information that we're not going to worry about right now. Because I'm not programming this database, I'm only designing it. And I don't need to worry about that right now because this is over normalization. If you're going to go over data types and all this other stuff, then yes, you may want to show that. But for this is so much easier for what I need done. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to populate these tables and with everything we need to know. Okay guys, as you can see, I just populated the students table with everything we had listed up on the chalkboard. Now the next step is to make the new table. So back over here on our tools, I want to click table and then click anywhere on the grid. Now this will be our second table for the books. So now you want to edit this down here. What I like to do is right click and then instead of edit table, I click edit in new window. Now this will open a second window down here so you can easily edit both at this very quickly, change from table to table. And as this, I will name this books. So now I will start making this and populate it with what we have, and I'll also do the other table, and then I'll be right back. Okay, here's the three tables that we had up on the chalkboard. Okay, so let's first look at the books table. I'm going to go over in the properties panel and we'll see what we have. Now the very first thing you should notice that the exclamation mark for student ID over here is the primary key. That is how MySQL Workbench says it's the primary key. Now do you think that's a very good primary key? No. Why is it like that? It's because it's the very first thing we entered into this table. Now you should always put the ID as the first thing. So what we're going to do is down here we're going to make book ID. And we're going to change this to int. That is because a primary key should always be an integer. So now over here we're going to unselect primary key So it's how it was. Now this is just a normal column. And over on book ID, we're going to select primary key. And now we're going to drag it to the top. So that looks a little better. We have the student ID and the book ID. Okay, now best friends. Best friend. Let's look at this one now. Best friend's name. Do you think that's a good primary key? Well, it could change because, I mean, it's a changing thing, but I don't really like it. Now first, you'd notice best friend's name is an integer. That's obviously impossible, so you'd have to change that to varchar. Okay, we know that this can't be an int. So the very first thing I would say is change this. Well, I don't know. Instead, I think we should have a best friend's ID. So that's what we're going to do, just like we did for the books. Best friend ID. And then we're going to set this to integer and select it as the primary key. Now this one over here, we're going to unselect that and change that back to this. Like that. And we're also going to drag this up at the top to keep it consistent. Okay, this is a lot better. Now we have an ID for each table. And now, when we look at this, over on the chalkboard, we had some squared or circled boxes. These were the ones that violated the first normal form rule. That is, everything being atomic. These were major and minor over here. These, you see, are not combined, and this one is. That's a problem. You want to pick one or the other. I like them separated, so over here on best friend, we're going to change this to best friend's first name, best friend's last name. Now it's consistent. I like everything consistent. That's what keeps your database organized. So what we're going to do now is change these. Major and minor, we're going to break that up into minor and major. So that's better. We're also going to do this for students. So major and minor. Let's make a new table. New column. Minor. Get rid of that there. So now I got major and I got minor. This is a lot better. Okay, so the very next thing is when I look at this, everything looks good except books. You see, we have the book ID and the number of pages and all this information about the book. But what book is it? That's the problem. We need to know what book it is. So we need to make a new column and make it book name. So now the book name will be part of this, so you know what book has how many pages. And I'm going to drag it up to the top because that's where I like the names. And that's what it is about keeping consistency. See, all the names are on the top, and that's how I like it.